There are questions many people carry quietly, wondering how parts of their identity fit with, well, big life roles.
Hmm.
Like, can you embrace a part of yourself that maybe doesn't quite align with traditional expectations and still be what society, calls a good husband?
It's a deeply personal knot to untangle, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, it touches on those core anxieties about identity, belonging, and whether we measure up to the blueprints laid out for us.
Right.
And for many people, that question specifically comes up around cross-dressing within the context of marriage.
An article called "Can I Still Be a Good Husband in Crossdress?" by Jenn der Bentson.
That's the one. So our mission here is to really dig into the specific article, pull out the core arguments the author is making,
Okay.
and understand their perspective on how cross-dressing intersects with those roles often expected of a husband. Things like being a protector or a provider.
So we're going to explore the tension the author describes between traditional gender roles and personal expression.
Exactly.
Look at what they say about the fear surrounding this and how, according to this source, communication and even masculinity itself might be, well, redefined within a marriage.
Let's jump in.
Okay.
So the author goes right to the heart of that core fear you mentioned, the one that often sits unspoken, I think, for married men who cross-dress. Does this part of who I am somehow make me less of a husband?
And the article suggests this fear is really rooted in a fundamental tension, isn't it? Between traditional ideas about gender and the desire for personal expression.
Exactly right. The author points to those cultural blueprints many men grow up with, the expectation to be strong, maybe even unemotional.
Right,
To
stoic.
physically and emotionally protect your family.
Could be the main financial provider, show confidence, leadership, and display traits and appearances seen as strictly masculine. You know the list.
We do. And the fear, as the source explains it, comes because cross-dressing is often misunderstood. It can trigger anxieties about being seen as weak or maybe confused or somehow like failing your partner.
Especially when that expression involves femininity.
Precisely. But the author is very clear. While that fear is absolutely real, and it's reinforced by societal stigma and those traditional ideas, it doesn't tell the whole story. Those beliefs, as the article puts it, don't capture everything there is to know about a person or, a husband.
Which leads us directly to one of the article's most, I think, powerful points. That cross-dressing doesn't erase your identity as a man or a husband.
This is where it gets really interesting. The author argues strongly that identity isn't just about outward presentation or the clothes you happen to wear.
Okay. So what is it then, according to the source?
It's built from the sum of your values, your commitments, your actions, and importantly, the love you give.
That makes sense. So it's deeper than the surface.
Much deeper. And the source frames cross-dressing as an expression of a part of identity that, yes, society often misunderstands,
Okay.
but it's presented not as somehow abandoning your masculinity or your commitment, but rather as a form of self-care, actually,
Yeah.
a way to feel more authentic and whole.
And this is a key takeaway that might surprise some people listening. The author actually suggests that embracing this often hidden feminine side can enhance a marriage.
Enhance it, yes.
How does the source say that happens?
By fostering more emotional openness, empathy, and communication, things that, build stronger partnerships and deeper intimacy.
That's fascinating because it directly challenges those common stereotypes.
It really does. And the article then goes on to sort of redefine traditional roles, starting with the idea of protector.
Okay, protector.
Yeah.
How is that redefined? It moves the definition way beyond just physical strength or dominance, right?
Way beyond. The author gives examples of what protection truly means in a relationship context, providing emotional safety for your partner, genuinely listening.
Understanding their needs, being a steady, reliable presence during tough times, and creating a home environment where everyone feels accepted and secure. That sounds like protection.
Absolutely. And the author makes the case that the very emotional vulnerability and authenticity that cross-dressing can foster actually build trust and create a stronger emotional bond, presenting this as a deeper form of protection than simply being, physically tough.
Okay, that's protector. Then there's the provider role, which the source also expands upon quite a bit.
It does. Again, it's not just boiled down to bringing home a paycheck or sticking to stereotypical male tasks.
So what are the examples the author gives for providing in this broader sense?
Things like contributing emotionally and mentally to the household, sharing responsibilities fairly, actively supporting your partner's goals and their well-being.
And investing your time and energy into building a happy, functional family life.
Yeah, that's providing. And the article asserts clearly there's no inherent conflict between cross-dressing and being a dependable provider.
Does it give examples?
It even points out that many men who cross-dress are successful professionals, fathers, and husbands. So the lived reality contradicts the stereotypes.
So the source is really urging us, and you, the listener, to look beyond those narrow, maybe outdated definitions.
Definitely. And underpinning all of this, the author stresses, is communication.
Communication. Always key.
Absolutely. The article really hammers this point home. Communication is critical. Fear thrives in silence and secrecy.
Makes sense. And the source offers practical, actionable tips for talking to your spouse about cross-dressing, doesn't it?
It does. Things like, choose a relaxed, private time to talk. Don't spring it on them.
Right. And make it absolutely clear this is about your self-expression, not any dissatisfaction with them or the relationship.
Crucial point. And reassure your partner repeatedly of your love and commitment. Be prepared for their emotions, whatever they might be, and give them the space and time they need to process.
That sounds fair. Being open to questions, too, right?
Be open to questions. Yeah, maybe even share resources if that feels helpful and appropriate for your situation.
And there's a really strong statement the author makes here. I remember reading it, noting that while many relationships have been strengthened by this kind of openness, very few went well when cross-dressing was kept hidden.
That's a stark point, isn't it?
It really underscores just how vital communication is.
Yeah. So this naturally raises the question. What happens if, even with open communication, a partner is unsure, or maybe uncomfortable, or struggling to accept it?
Which must happen sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. And the source addresses this with practical advice.
Okay, what does it suggest?
Things like respecting their feelings, genuinely, giving them time without pressure, keeping those lines of communication open, even if it's difficult.
Maybe seeking outside help.
Potentially exploring couples counseling, yeah. And consistently reaffirming your commitment and love, even amidst differences or discomforts.
So it acknowledges marriage involves challenges?
It does, and it emphasizes the value of mutual respect and, importantly, a willingness to grow together through these things.
And the source also directly addresses intimacy, which is often a big concern.
A huge one. It pushes back against the misconception that cross-dressing automatically damages intimacy.
So what's the counter-argument?
The author suggests that with that crucial open communication, cross-dressing can potentially enhance intimacy.
Enhance it? How so?
By fostering emotional closeness, maybe allowing couples to explore new dimensions of connection together, and potentially even improving sexual connection by boosting the cross-dressing individual's confidence and authenticity, feeling more you.
And the source notes that open discussion about intimacy concerns is the path to finding solutions that work for both people in the relationship. Not ignoring it.
Exactly. Don't ignore it. Talk about it.
Okay, so zooming out, what's the ultimate point the source is making here?
It really all comes back to how we define what it means to be a good husband and maybe even more fundamentally, what we understand masculinity to be.
And the author strongly argues that holding on to rigid, narrow definitions actually limits us.
Limits us and limits the potential of a relationship, yeah. They suggest the strongest marriages are built on authenticity, mutual respect, open communication, and love.
Foundational elements.
Foundational elements that aren't dictated by the clothes you wear.
And the source empowers you, the listener, to define what being a husband means within the context of your unique relationship together with your partner.
Rather than just accepting outdated stereotypes, it's about your definition.
And the article offers some practical tips, too, for navigating the balance. Things like creating safe spaces, no specific times, or places where cross-dressing feels comfortable.
That makes sense. Also, balancing time, making sure you're maintaining quality time and connection with your spouse outside of this specific aspect.
Right. And sharing the journey,
Right.
perhaps involving your spouse if they're comfortable, maybe through shopping together or just talking about it more casually.
Setting clear boundaries is another one, respecting both partners' comfort levels, negotiating that together.
And finally, celebrating the strengths you bring to the marriage, focusing on your contributions and love beyond just external appearances.
Yeah, focusing on the core relationship values.
Okay, so to really distill the author's main points from this article for everyone listening.
Let's recap. The fear that cross-dressing diminishes one's role as a husband is understandable, but the source argues it's largely based on misconceptions and, frankly, outdated ideas about gender roles.
Right, and the article presents cross-dressing not as a threat to a relationship, but as a valid form of personal expression that doesn't diminish your capacity to love or protect or provide for your family.
And in fact, the author makes the powerful case that embracing this part of yourself can actually enhance emotional depth and strengthen the marriage
Yeah.
through increased authenticity and communication, being more fully yourself.
So the article's final resonant message is this: being a good husband is fundamentally about love, respect, and commitment.
Not the clothes you choose to wear.
It's really a call to look beyond surface assumptions, isn't it?
It is. And connect on those deeper layers of who you are and what you share in the relationship.
So building on this source's exploration of how we define roles in marriage, here's something maybe for you to consider. How might actively challenging any rigid definition of a relationship role, whether it's husband, wife, or partner, actually make a relationship stronger?
Interesting question. How so?
Well, perhaps by forcing a deeper conversation between the people involved about what shared values and individual needs they believe are truly important for their specific relationship. Just a thought to leave you with.